Hey guys, Yoda. This dungeon is one of the harder ones, I would say, going into the new season. It's a War Within dungeon, and you kind of want to have a paladin or a priest, although it's not as important as before. So we're gonna start off with these 4 footmen, but we don't want that to be the whole pull because this first pull everyone has cooldowns. I've been doing double knight with one sharpshooter here. So in this pull, there's the footmen that basically just hit the tank. They also have a skill called defend, which you're gonna want to stop or walk out of. These two knights are like mini boss type mobs. They hit the tank really hard. They have a really strong melee. For some reason, it's like 5 times as strong as a footman. They also do two other skills. One is impale, which puts a dot on a random person. And also they have disrupting shout, which does AoE damage to the group. These are somewhat dangerous if you pull them like with other dangerous stuff, but it's the first pull and we have less. That's why I do a big pull here. There's also this sharpshooter out here. So he has two moves. One is, or three moves rather. One is just shoot, which always targets the tank. Unless like someone else has aggro on pull, which is very scary. If someone like aggro's the sharpshooter, they'll probably die. They also have pot shot, which targets a random person. And they also have caltrops, so they jump. I think it's baited on players. They jump near a player and they drop these traps around. But basically, as long as everyone's somewhat stacked in melee, the sharpshooters should eventually be somewhat stacked. So you can see these footmen, once they're at, I think it's half health, they start casting defend. You do want to stop the defend. Otherwise, it makes everything near them take less damage. Also, just like randomly, when you stop the defend, the footman itself takes more damage, but it doesn't really matter because the footman is like a piss mob anyway. So once we finish this pull, we're going to go up to the mini boss, Suleiman. I think I also didn't click the fountain at this point, so you're going to want to click the fountain if you have a paladin or a priest. The buff isn't that crazy anymore. It's like 3-ish% of your overall as a tank and much less than that as a DPS. So Suleiman has two abilities. One is the Shield Slam and one is Thunderclap. So Shield Slam does massive damage to the tank. I think I barely live it if I'm full health with no cooldowns. On a 14, it's full gear. Thunderclap does group damage, so you need to watch out if you pull this guy with some other stuff like the Knights would be really scary. Thunderclap does big damage to the group, and if it overlaps with the shooter's pot shot, it will probably kill someone. I'm taking him right here at the top of the stairs. So for some reason, these stairs count as like a wall when he's hitting you. If they fix this, then you're going to want to tank him like next to an actual wall. But for now, like the stairs, well, that time it didn't work, but the stairs do kind of count as a wall. I actually got knocked into this pack, but it should be okay. Yeah, he knocked me into the stairs there, and then I just didn't move. And the next one should also probably do the same. Thunderclap hitting the group, and then we're gonna watch the shield slam, then probably fast forward. So shield slam hits me, boom, I barely move because it's the stairs, and that's it. If they do fix this, you're gonna want to take him, like I said, next to a wall. Alright, so once Suleiman dies, the boss, Captain Dalkar, is very similar to Court of Stars, will send a mini boss at you, and it actually matters where Suleiman dies. So the way you're pathing in this dungeon, generally, I've been going right, because that causes you to fight Elena Emberlands away from the first boss. Basically, like, if whichever side you go to first decides which mini-boss you're fighting with the first boss encounter. So if you go right, you fight Elena Emberlands away from the boss, and you fight Tanner with the boss. So Elena Emberlands does a tank hit and like unavoidable AoE damage, and Tanner just has a kick. So in my opinion, you want to fight the one that has like unavoidable damage away from the boss, so the boss is like as easy as possible. The boss does become very easy though with this strat, so yeah. So anyway, as I was mentioning, where you kill Suleiman determines where the mini boss is coming from. Chainmail. So ideally, actually, you would kill him over here. I kind of messed up, so that you can go up the stairs and do a pull with chainmail up the stairs. Since I didn't do that, chainmail is coming over here to find, like, based on where the Suleiman's corpse is. I think generally you're going to want to be playing all these mini bosses also, just because they're worth a lot of count. Since I messed up the positioning, I do end up just doing a pull here. In this pull, there's two new mobs, the Priest and the Conjurer. So the Priest has two moves. It has Holy Smite and Greater Heal. The Smite is not strong enough to one-shot summon, and neither is the Fireball. But the Greater Heal you do want to stop. And if too many Smites go off, obviously people are going to probably die because it's too much unavoidable damage, or too much avoidable damage. But just make sure the Greater Heals go off, really. Or don't go off, rather. Alright, so the Chainmail has two abilities. One is Brutal Smash, which is, you know, just don't stay in or you get stunned. And the other one is Lunging Strikes. For some reason, this is one of those abilities that says it's targeting the tank, but actually it's targeting someone else. I don't know if that's a bug, but hopefully they fix it. Hopefully they change it if it's not a bug or whatever they consider. So yeah. Anyway, after this, we're going to probably go up the stairs. I don't remember if I pulled this. I end up skipping this pack. If you don't do the pull I just did, then you would fight chainmail with this pull right here. We're going to the right, like I said. I think generally the trash mobs on the right are easier too than the trash mobs on the left. Do a dual pull here. So there's a bunch of patrols in this area. You need to be careful about them. This time the patrol was very far, so I decided to do this pull. And everyone's just kind of close to melee, so this sharpshooter will eventually jump in, and we just need to interrupt. There's also a Warlinks in here, which is jumping on people and giving them bleeds. I think it's not nearly as deadly as the same mob that was in Mists of Turn Scythe. Yeah, here's the pounce. I guess I just didn't bounce on anyone, so yeah. So after this pack is dying, we're gonna pull the patrol. It's very important to get this patrol out of the way. If it's anywhere close, I would normally pull the patrol before this pack. But you do definitely want to fight the patrol before the mini boss. Otherwise, like, you can ninja pull and then you're dead. By the way, this shoot mechanic is what I was talking about. So I didn't pull this. Someone pulled it by like base pulling it. And as a result, my healer had aggro and both shoots are on him. So he just dies. These shoots are meant for the tank. If anyone pulls this pack, that's not the tank. That person is basically guaranteed dead or your healer's dead. One of the above. So that's what happens here. It's mostly the same mobs. There's a knight and 2 sharpshooters, so watch out for overlaps with pot shot and impale. But other than that, you know, just kick the priest and that's it. This area, by the way, features a lot of archers that bounce around and like patrols, so you need to be very careful about ninja pulling, especially if you ninja pull like an archer pack. Then, or I guess they're called fervent sharpshooters, but if you ninja pull one, then oftentimes the tank will not have initial aggro, and then they're just going to shoot someone random and that person will die. So yeah, be very careful about the patrols here and with ninja pulling. We pull some footmen with Forge Master Damien. So this guy has 2 skills. One is Seal of Flame, but it puts a buff on him. So you would think that, oh, I just need to play around the buff, but actually the buff just has permanent uptime. So here this basically is always happening. It makes his melee hits do a lot more damage, I believe, and they also drop all these puddles on the ground. You can outrange the puddles. They only drop for a certain amount, like in a certain radius. He also does Heat Wave, which is his other skill, which is just like raid-wide hit. There's a Seal of Flame. He's hitting me and dropping all these puddles around. Ranger standing outside, and he also does the Heat Wave, which does some damage and applies a debuff. That's pretty much the whole mob. He hurts the tank a lot, by the way. Like, Seal of Flame increases melee damage. I think it increases all of his damage, and it gives him like an on-hit magic thing, so it does a lot of damage, and some of it is magical, so, you know, watch out, warriors. So yeah. That's this mob. Once he dies, it summons the next mini-boss, which is Elena Emberlands. By the way, if you fight the boss when there's 2 mini-bosses, it's just an instant wipe. They have like infinite health. It's like billions of health, so you can't possibly win. We pull Elena Emberlands, and I had to pull this pack with it. He has 2 moves. One is Divine Judgment, so that just applies, it does a tank hit, and it applies a dispellable buff, or debuff, which is 25% extra damage taken, so probably dispel that if there's any pressure at all. And he also casts Holy Radiance, which is the group damage. It's like unavoidable. Boom, you can see it pulsing. So your choices, we're going to fast forward after we kill this mob, give some patrols, and we go boss. So your choice basically is to fight either the mini boss we just fought or this person, Tanner, with the boss. Tanner just has a kick, two abilities. One is Fireball, which is just like cast a random fireball at someone. Doesn't do that much damage, honestly. You can kind of just let it go off most of the time. And he also casts Cinder Blast, which is at the tank, and if it goes off, it's like a long stun, so you want to be kicking that. Also, Dalcry has an ability called Battle Cry, I think. Might be Battle Shout, I don't remember the name. But you also want to kick that. A range can solo that, and a melee can solo Cinder Blast, and then everyone else can just kick Fireball. So Dalcry has 2 or so, 3 moves more than that. So one is Pierce Armor. It puts a bleed on the tank. It has a very, very high uptime, so do watch out for that as the tank. Hurl Spear is just a dodgeable line. Just don't stand in it. There were some bugs on PTR with people randomly getting hit when they weren't in the line, so I'm not sure what that's about. Hopefully it gets fixed. Oh, the ability is called Battlecry, by the way. And it also has Savage Mauling. So she'll pick, or he will pick a random person, and that person will be rooted until you break the shield. You'll notice that Tanner also has an ability called Ember Storm, so there is a wombo combo with these two. So if you have Savage Mauling coming up and Ember Storm, then you can potentially be rooted in one of these swirlies, which means you need to use like an immunity, or the Savage Mauling needs to be broken instantly, one of the above. For that reason, I think maybe we won't end up playing this combo forever, but on PTR, this is what everyone does, so better right now, I guess. And this boss also is kind of long for how little mechanics it has, so be ready for a boring fight, I guess, unless they change something. We're fast forwarding this. If you enter this area with Lust up, then you can probably do a big-ish pull. We're going to talk about the mobs that are in this area first. So there are the Neophytes, which are they just spawn here. They are scary for like a little bit, but as long as they die fast, I think it's not a problem. They get some buff that makes their auto attack stronger. But as long as you have cooldowns on pull, you should be fine. There's also the Ardent Paladins. So these will cast Sacred Toll and Consecrate. So the Consecrate basically just move out of it. And Sacred Toll is the unavoidable group damage that's coming out. 4 of them is probably usually really hard, but if you have Lust and cooldowns, it's fine. So, you know, play around your cooldowns that way. The Zealous Templars are tank hitting mobs. So normally they do very low damage, but they will randomly gain a buff that looks like wings and increases their damage by a lot. So watch out for that. Once they have that buff, I'm tracking it on my nameplates, but you can see here he has the buff. When they have this buff, they do a lot of damage. So you either kite or use a cooldown, or just, you know, watch your health bar when they have this. There's also the priests, which have the same abilities as before, smite and greater heal. Since we have lust, I do actually do like a massive pull here. Almost die to it, but yeah, we stay alive. A pull like this, you probably want to be rolling cooldowns almost the whole time if possible. Obviously, not every class can do that, but yeah, if you don't have a cooldown up on a pull like this, just watch out, or just don't do the pull. Honestly, pulling the whole room like this, even with Lust, is kind of risky. You could pull like one less pack and it'd be like fine for time. Or you could like do this pack and then like chain when one of the paladins dies or something. There's plenty of less aggressive ways to pull this. Anyway, once you kill one of the side packs, that side will like come down the stairs. And those packs are mostly the same as the other packs, except one of the Zealous Templars has been replaced by a Fanatical Conjurer, which is the same mobs as before. They just have Fireball and Flame Strike. All right, on to the boss. So this boss has a bunch of moves, but the main thing is when he has wings, which is Vindictive Wrath, he's way scarier. This Hammer of Purity, basically the strat I find is to just stack and move. So we stack and then we move across the room. These hammers just spin uselessly across. He also casts his Sacrificial Pyre, so this is very similar to the soak from Gambit, if you guys remember that dungeon in Shadowlands. If he doesn't have wings up, it's only 3 stacks. If he has wings, it's 5 stacks. Every time you soak, you get 1 stack of a debuff. If you continue soaking, you continue to get more stacks. And it does AoE damage to the group, so you can see it's about to happen. I soak, boom, does AoE damage, and I get a debuff. Generally, I think most tanks are going to be able to solo this, but, you know, if you're a tanky DPS, feel free to just jump in. As a paladin, if you have bubble up on pull, you can just bubble all 3. Be careful soaking all 3 in a row, especially if Castigator's Shield is coming up. Castigator's Shield is the group damage that he does. That's unavoidable. He also is about to cast Hammer, so we're going to move. Here's a Sacrificial Pyre. So the first 2 are not overlapped with wings. By the way, he has a kick too, just kick. So there are only 3 stacks. So generally, as a paladin, by the way, you can do bubble on the first one and then group soak second, or you can just solo soak it with Guardian or something. Then the third one you can spell ward, 4th one you can bubble. So you can solo like all of the hard ones as a paladin. DK, you can just solo soak all of them with AMS. BDH, you can kind of solo soak all of them just like with your own self sustain. But just be very careful when you're soaking of overlapping it with Castigator Shield, because if you like bump into it like 3 times and then he does the group damage, you could very easily kill someone. Here's a Sacrificial Pyre. I think I am planning to bubble it. I take 1 stack, yeah, and then I bubble and just start walking in, making sure he's not casting Cascader's Shield, and boom, I just solo soak it. Next we go upstairs. Oh, quality is already high. Okay. So this pull is basically more of the same. 2 priests, 2 Templars, and 2 paladins. It's a pretty tough pull, honestly. As a paladin, I'm just like solo kicking one with everyone on the other one. But this is mostly the same mobs as downstairs, so we can skip it. Okay, so then once you get to this area, this is where it starts getting really tough. So there's 2 new mobs here. The Light Spawn, which is similar to the mobs at end of Grim Batol. They're a little bit easier than that because, you know, there's no little mobs giving you debuffs, but they have the same skill. It's called Purification. Targets you and basically just does damage to you while it sucks. And Risen Mage is also a new mob, so there were other mages downstairs which are called Fanatical Conjurers. These, instead of casting Flame Strike, will cast Firebolt Volley, which, as you can guess, is the same as every other bolt volley in the game. If it goes off, everyone takes massive damage, so you don't want that to happen. Pull I'm doing is pretty normal, I think, for PTR, but it is going to be a very hard pull. So be sure to play well defensively / use cooldowns. There's going to be 2 Paladins pumping Sacred Toll into the group and Purification happening, so if they ever overlap, then that's going to be really scary. Make sure you have a personal for that. And you generally want to be cutting backwards here because there's a bunch of patrols, or at least a patrol, in the area. You kite backwards with Consecrate. Also, one thing, when the light spawns die, when they get low, I think it's 25%, they cast Burst of Light. You can see our bunk tried to taunt it out. And if any enemies are in here, they get healed for like half their health. And if you're in here, obviously you take massive damage. So we're going to run it out and it doesn't get healed. So in this area, one thing to be very careful of is Sir Braunpike over here is a very dangerous mini-boss. And also the patrol that goes like around him is very dangerous as well. So our plan is to pull this pack, which is like, you know, more of the same mobs with this. If you notice, there are 3 Risen Mages in here, so there's no way you have enough kicks for everything. Bolts are going to be flying left and right. Just make sure that you play well defensively. Like if a bolt is on you and you're low, use something. Make sure Firebolt Volley doesn't go off, and you need to also make sure that you use a personal when you get Purification plus Sacred Toll. I think you try to kick like as many as you can, but you also need to make sure Firebolt Volley goes off. So if you don't have a Paladin, I think you're just kicking Firebolt Volley and Greater Heal, and then using AoE stops for the rest. Or you could try and kick just random bolts. When it casts Firebolt Volley, you try to like spam AoE stops until you have a kickback. Either way, you know, both strategies are viable. But mostly just don't let those... Make sure you don't let Firebolt Volley go off with Sacred Toll, otherwise you're going to take a lot of damage. Hopefully the keys that we're doing early on at least are going to be low enough that we can just let stuff go off. Because playing this room perfectly is going to be very hard unless you have like a Paladin or a VDH or something. Alright, next we fight Sir Braunpike. So this guy is very similar to Kajin from All's Fusion in Dragonflight. This debuff that he gives us is permanently pulsing damage. He also has a tank kit called Blazing Strike. It puts a debuff and does a fair bit of damage. Make sure you're rotating cooldowns for that because your healer is not going to want to be focusing you. Also, there's 2 priests here. Just make sure you kick. One other thing about this room, whenever you kill an undead mob, this mob room is full of undead. Like whatever is called Risen, Footmen, or also the mages. They explode when they die for whole group-wide damage. So be ready to watch your health. Especially Sir Braunpike, you know, when you're fighting him, you're probably going to be ticking down the whole time. And when you kill him, it's like one last little burst. So be careful for that. One thing you can do to counterplay this is if the mob is stunned when it dies or knocked up, or like CC it in some way, then it will not explode for damage. So you can try to CC it before it dies. All right, after Braunpike, we're going to pull these 2 sides. These mobs auto aggro if you pull the boss, so we just pull them before the boss. Maybe in the future someone will start pulling these with the boss, but again, you have to be careful with all these footmen exploding when the boss dies. You can see we're like, I think we're just gonna CC them as they die, or just kill them separately. Yeah, we're at the barrier, and then, you know, every single one that dies pops for damage. We pull this pack because our crowd is kind of weird. We don't have enough count, and we're on to the boss. So this boss has a few mechanics. The first, Holy Smite. Targets the tank, make sure you kick. If you have a shaman in your group, you want to give them the kick on Holy Smite because it gives them holy resistance for seasoned wins. Holy Flame is just dodge. There used to be a mechanic where you could a trick where you could stand in and diffuse the dot, but you can't do that anymore. Purify is going to be a line dodge, very similar to Blackrock Hold's second boss. You can see it picks our priest here and chases him around, and where you go kind of draws like this line. I think ideally like people are baiting around along the edge and drawing like lines around the edge. Boss also has another cast which is very important, which is Inner Fire. Right after Purify, Inner Fire is what puts a buff on her. You can see here is the buff. While this buff is on, she's pulsing AoE damage, so it's like a heal check. And also you can notice our healer got picked by Purify during the heal check, so, you know, somewhat dangerous here. The other move is Blinding Light, so this is your classic look away mechanic. You need to be facing away when the cast finishes. Boom, face away. If you're facing, then you get a dispellable debuff, so if you're a healer, you can watch out for people, you know, getting hit by this and just dispel them. And yeah, we're just ticking down from Inner Light, and that is P1. Run away with Purify. look away, blinding light, dodge holy flame, and heal through inner light, or inner fire rather. Okay, so once you phase the boss, he goes to the top. Ideally, you're gonna want your group to be all on the same side here, and that's because you see these neophytes that spawned. If you're all on the same side, I think melee have to step out of melee to ensure that this happens right before they spawn. They will run up the same side of the stairs, and you can easily CC them. If you're split like we are, then they'll run up both sides, which is not ideal. Also, you want to break this shield as soon as possible. I don't know what the break point is, but if you break it fast enough, you only get one set of ads. If you take forever, then the ads keep spawning. So you really want to break the shield quick while we're lusting it. These ads, by the way, I don't know who designed these, but I'm not happy with them. So the ads will not respect aggro. They melee anyone, which I think is terrible design. Also, they pulse AoE if you're near them. So they did nerf both the melee damage and the AoE damage. However, they nerfed it by not enough. It is, if you're playing melee and try to do damage to them, you're just going to die. If they break through at your CC and they get to the range, then your range are going to die. So the best way to deal with these, in my opinion, is with an AoE CC. Like, we don't have Ring of Frost, but Ring of Frost is really nice. Sigil of Misery is really nice. They take ticking damage, just for like existing. It's one of their properties. So if you CC them with a long CC like that, they'll just kind of tick out and die before getting to you. But if you don't CC them, they become a massive issue. So you can see these just running at us. Fortunately, we have like cooldowns to deal with them, but if you're just like unaware of the ads, if you don't respect them, they're basically just going to kill your whole group. The best thing to do, in my opinion, is all stack on one side and then see, like, just AoE CC them with Misery, Earthbind, Ring of Frost, whatever similar skills that you have that are like that. After that, the boss basically just repeats. It's the same as phase 1. Yeah, it's the same. All right, that is it for the Priory guide. Thank you for watching.